One ordinary morning, a 78-year-old woman woke up feeling a slight numbness on her face. She thought it was because she had slept poorly. She sat up in bed, rubbed her face, drank some water, and went on with her day as if nothing had happened. 5 hours later, she could no longer move one side of her body. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. She had suffered a stroke, and it all started with that strange feeling upon waking. The scariest part wasn't the stroke itself, but that there was a sign, a warning, a silent notice she ignored because no one ever told her it could mean something so serious. Many times the symptoms of a stroke don't appear as severe pain or a sudden collapse. Sometimes they begin subtly, almost invisibly, and if you don't know what to look for, you might miss the chance to act in time. Today, I'm going to tell you what the most overlooked symptom upon waking that can signal a stroke is, and why almost no one associates it with it. We'll talk about what really happens in the body during sleep, the signs that may appear in the early morning hours, and how you can protect yourself or someone you love before it's too late. This isn't to scare you, it's to prepare you, because the right information at the right time can change everything. Before we start, tell me in the comments, how old are you and where are you watching me from? I'd love to read your answers. When we talk about a stroke, the first thing many people imagine is a sudden fall, loss of consciousness, or someone collapsing without warning. But in reality, a stroke can begin much more quietly, especially while we sleep. A stroke, or cerebrovascular accident, happens when the blood flow to a part of the brain is interrupted. This can be due to a clot blocking an artery, known as an ischemic stroke, or from a blood vessel rupture, causing a hemorrhagic stroke. In both cases, brain cells stop receiving oxygen and nutrients and begin to die within minutes. Now, why does this happen during the night, while we're asleep? During sleep, the body enters a deep state of rest. Blood pressure usually drops, breathing slows, and heart rate decreases. But if a person has health issues like uncontrolled hypertension, high cholesterol, or heart rhythm disturbances, such as atrial fibrillation, the risk doesn't disappear just because they're asleep. In fact, it can increase. In the early morning hours, just before waking, a normal physiological phenomenon occurs. The body begins to prepare for the day. Blood pressure rises, heart rate speeds up slightly, and stress hormones like cortisol start to be released. This is completely natural, but for vulnerable people, it can be the exact moment when a clot forms, moves, or an artery weakens. What makes this moment even more critical is that many people wake up with a mild sign, like numbness, slight weakness, or blurred vision, and don't pay attention. They assume it's due to sleeping in a bad position or age. But the truth is, those first minutes after waking can make the difference between life and death, between full recovery and permanent disability. When it comes to the brain, time is vital. It's said that time is brain, because with every minute that passes without treatment, more brain tissue is damaged. And if the stroke happened during the night, every second after opening your eyes becomes even more important. Knowing this isn't just a medical fact. It's a tool that can save your life or the life of someone you care about. Because if you understand what might be happening while you sleep, you'll know when to act upon waking, even when your body barely whispers that something is wrong. When people wake up and feel something strange in their body, the first thing they usually don't think is, "I'm having a stroke." Most often they say, "I slept in a bad position," "My arm fell asleep," or "I must be tired." And while sometimes that explanation is true, other times it's not. There is one particular symptom that often appears upon waking and almost always goes unnoticed: weakness or numbness on one side of the body. It can affect the face, the arm, the leg, or a combination of all three. The most dangerous part is that, because it's mild, most people ignore it. This symptom can feel like unusual heaviness, like one part of your body isn't responding the same as the other. Maybe you notice your right arm doesn't have its usual strength, or when you stand up, your left leg doesn't support you well. Sometimes it's just a tingling sensation that doesn't go away. Other times, there may be a slight dragging while walking, a smile that doesn't form correctly, or difficulty moving the fingers. And then one thinks, I probably slept on that side. But the real problem is that if the symptom doesn't disappear completely within a few minutes, it could be an early sign that something serious is happening in the brain. Charles, a 73-year-old man, woke up on a Tuesday feeling his right arm was heavier than usual. He thought he had slept in a bad position, so he got up, shook his arm a little, and went to make coffee. But while trying to open the sugar jar, he realized he didn't have the strength to turn the lid. Minutes later, when he tried to speak with his wife, he noticed he couldn't pronounce words correctly. When she looked at him, she saw one side of his face was slightly drooping. Charles was having a stroke. Luckily, his wife reacted quickly and they called emergency services. They arrived at the hospital in time and he received treatment. Today, with rehabilitation, he has regained much of his mobility. But he says himself, if I had been alone that morning, I might have waited too long. And that is the reality for many older adults. They wake up with a small symptom, underestimate it, and go back to bed or continue their day as if nothing happened. But that symptom, which seems insignificant, can be the brain's first cry for help. That's why it's so important to pay attention to any change in the body upon waking. It doesn't have to hurt to be serious. In fact, the most dangerous symptoms often don't hurt. They just feel different. Mild, strange, but different. The key is not to ignore them. There is a reason many people don't act when they feel a strange symptom upon waking. They don't associate it with a stroke. And that's not due to ignorance or neglect. It happens for something deeper: habit, misinformation, and fear. All our lives we have heard phrases like, if it doesn't hurt, it's not serious. That belief is so ingrained that when the body gives subtle signals, we overlook them. We think we should only worry if something hurts badly, bleeds, or prevents us from getting up. But when it comes to the brain, pain isn't always the messenger. Many times the symptom is so silent, it gets confused with something ordinary. Slight blurred vision, difficulty articulating a word, clumsiness in the hand while holding a cup. Then automatic excuses come. It's just sleep. I probably need to adjust my glasses. A coffee will fix it. That's exactly what Teresa, a 76-year-old woman, thought. One morning she started seeing double. She had trouble focusing well and noticed a slight headache. She thought it was because she had been reading too much the night before. The next day, she struggled to distinguish the letters in the newspaper, but assumed her glasses were dirty. 3 days passed until she finally fell after tripping over a rug she didn't see. She went to the doctor, and tests revealed she had had a mini stroke. No one suspected it, not even her, because there was no pain, no fainting, no total loss of speech, just mild visual discomfort, which she thought would go away on its own. Adding to this lack of information is another very common factor in older adults: fear of going to the doctor. Many people prefer to wait, think it's temporary, or even avoid a consultation so as not to worry the children or not to make a fuss over nothing. We hear this often. I didn't want to bother anyone. After all, it was going to pass. But what many don't know is that in the case of a stroke, waiting can be the difference between walking again or never walking again. There's also fear of being hospitalized, losing independence, or that the diagnosis will bring more restrictions. All this causes many signs to be silenced. People keep what they feel to themselves, and the body keeps moving toward a crisis without help. That's why it's so important to talk about these topics. Because if we don't know, a stroke can start with a simple tingling, blurred vision, or clumsiness moving a hand, then we won't know how to act in time. And when it comes to the brain, every minute counts. Don't wait for pain to appear. Many times the body doesn't scream, it only whispers. And if we don't listen in time, the consequences can be devastating. Many people believe that while they sleep, their body enters a state of total rest and absolute safety. But the reality is that some silent, persistent health conditions can make the risk of stroke increase precisely during the night. One of the most important is nocturnal hypertension. Most people with high blood pressure know they need to take care of themselves during the day. But what few know is that in some cases, blood pressure doesn't drop during sleep, or even rises more, and that is very dangerous. When we sleep, the heart should work with less effort. But if the pressure stays high or rises, the brain's arteries suffer unnecessary stress, and over time, this can lead to vessel rupture or clot formation. Isabel, a 70-year-old woman, led an apparently peaceful life. She walked every afternoon, ate well, and didn't smoke. Her medical checkups were acceptable, but she started waking up with strange headaches and a constant feeling of tiredness despite sleeping 8 hours. When her doctor asked her to wear a nighttime blood pressure monitor, they discovered her pressure spiked while she slept. She was living with nocturnal hypertension without knowing it. That was a timely wake-up call. Another silent factor is sleep apnea. This condition causes a person to stop breathing for seconds while sleeping. Each pause forces the body to work harder to recover oxygen, which disrupts heart rhythm and raises blood pressure. Many people with apnea don't know it. They just think they snore loudly or wake up tired. But that nighttime oxygen deprivation can gradually damage the brain's blood vessels. There's also atrial fibrillation, a heart arrhythmia causing irregular and rapid beats. This condition significantly increases the risk of clots forming in the heart, which can then travel to the brain during the night when the body is still and relaxed. The person feels no pain, no alarm, just falls asleep, and can wake up with a stroke. To these medical factors are added other risk elements often ignored because they seem normal: a diet high in salt and fats, lack of daily physical activity, and prolonged emotional stress. Sedentarism, especially in older adults, slows circulation, which favors clot formation. And stress, though invisible, can raise blood pressure without one noticing. Lastly, there is genetic history. If your parents or siblings have suffered a stroke, your chances also increase, especially if you are over 60. It doesn't mean you will suffer one, but you should be more attentive to symptoms and take better care of yourself than average. The important thing here is not to panic, but to know that night is not an automatic guarantee of safety. The body needs rest, yes, but it also needs proper conditions so that rest doesn't become a risk. Recognizing these risk factors is like turning on a light in the dark. If you know what might affect you while you sleep, you can prevent it. You can adjust habits, consult the right doctor, and ensure every night is truly a moment of rest, not danger. Knowing that a stroke can happen while we sleep may cause fear, but real power lies in knowing there are ways to reduce that risk, and many of them depend on simple habits you can start applying tonight. The first is to watch what you eat, especially at dinner. Heavy meals, very salty or full of saturated fats, can raise blood pressure in the following hours and make your body work harder than necessary while you sleep. Avoid processed meats, fried foods, excess red meat, and sugary desserts before bed. Instead, choose foods that protect your arteries and promote circulation. A diet rich in potassium helps control blood pressure naturally. You can find it in foods like bananas, avocados, spinach, papaya, lentils, and cooked potatoes. Omega-3, on the other hand, helps keep blood vessels flexible and prevents clot formation. You can get it from oily fish like salmon or sardines, as well as from walnuts and chia or flax seeds. Another simple but powerful change: avoid eating dinner very late or going to bed immediately after eating. Give your body time to digest. Active digestion while lying down forces the digestive system to work extra and can alter your pressure, especially if you already have a history of hypertension. A lesser known but very useful recommendation is to sleep with your head slightly elevated. Just a slightly higher pillow or a gentle angle that facilitates blood flow and reduces pressure on cerebral vessels. You don't need to sleep sitting up or in uncomfortable positions. Just tilting your head slightly can make a difference. It is also essential to monitor your blood pressure during the night, especially if you have already been diagnosed with hypertension or suspect it rises while you sleep. There are blood pressure monitors that record variations during the early morning, and with that data, your doctor can better adjust your treatment. Sometimes, simply changing the medication time achieves much better control. And of course, daily physical activity remains one of the best allies for brain health. You don't need to run or go to the gym. Just a 30-minute walk every day to activate circulation, regulate pressure, and oxygenate the body naturally. Ruben, a 75-year-old man, had uncontrolled blood pressure for years. He tried different medications, but never managed to keep it stable at night. One day, his doctor made a simple suggestion: go for a 30-minute walk each morning at a moderate pace. In less than 3 months, his nighttime pressure began to stabilize, and his sleep improved significantly. Today, Ruben says his walks not only take care of him, they also connect him with life. Because in the end, prevention doesn't always mean making huge sacrifices. Sometimes it's just about changing small routines, eating better, sleeping with intention, walking a little more, and above all, listening to your body with attention and respect. Sleep should be an act of peace, not a moment of risk. And you can make it so. Many people have had a mini stroke and don't know it. They lived it, went through it, and continued their lives thinking it was a simple forgetfulness, dizziness, or a moment of disorientation. But in reality, the brain was already sending them a signal. A mini stroke, also known as a cerebral microinfarction or transient ischemic attack, occurs when blood flow is briefly blocked in a part of the brain. The interruption can last a few minutes or even seconds. That's why symptoms usually disappear quickly. And because there is no severe pain or immediate visible damage, many people don't seek medical help. But symptoms passing doesn't mean no damage occurred. The mini stroke leaves a mark, even if small. Sometimes it's just a microscopic point of dead tissue, but if left untreated or its cause unexplored, the next one could be much more serious, even fatal. How do you know if you had one without realizing it? There are signs that can appear days or weeks later: memory lapses, difficulty concentrating, temporary weakness in a hand or leg, mild balance problems, or subtle changes in speech. These aren't dramatic symptoms but differ from your normal state. Helen, a 72-year-old woman, noticed that from time to time she forgot simple words, like her grandchildren's names or where she left her keys. She thought it was part of aging. But one day, while talking to her daughter, she blanked out for a few seconds. She didn't know what she was saying. She went to the doctor and was ordered an MRI. There they discovered she had had a cerebral microinfarction a year earlier. Helen hadn't felt pain or lost consciousness. She just noticed subtle changes, and like many, she ignored them. If you suspect something like this has happened to you, the first step is to talk to your primary care physician. Don't minimize it. Don't say, "It already passed." Ask for specific tests like a brain MRI, an electrocardiogram, and a carotid ultrasound. These exams can show if there was brain damage, if there are plaques blocking blood flow, or if your heart has any irregularities. It is also important to control cholesterol, blood sugar, and of course blood pressure. Because a mini stroke is not an isolated episode. It's a warning, an opportunity to act before it's too late. And if you've already had one, your goal now is clear: prevent the next. That includes lifestyle changes, a cleaner diet, less salt, more fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats. Gentle daily exercise, good sleep, stress reduction, and taking medications if your doctor considers them necessary. The damage a mini stroke leaves may seem minimal, but if repeated, if another occurs within months, the brain begins to lose essential functions like speech, memory, and mobility. You can't see those wounds with your eyes, but they're there. That's why if you ever had a strange moment of confusion, unexplained weakness, or an instant when you felt something wasn't right in your mind, don't forget it. It wasn't a coincidence. It was your body speaking. And now that you know, you have the power to respond. Now that you've reached this point, I want you to take a moment to reflect. Today we talked about that silent symptom that can appear upon waking: weakness or numbness on one side of the body, also blurred vision, mild difficulty speaking, momentary confusion. All those signs many people ignore, but that can be the first warning of a stroke. We talked about what happens in the body while you sleep, how pressure can rise without your knowledge, about sleep apnea, risks that come with age, genetics, and habits. And above all, we learned what to do when the body whispers that something isn't right. Because the most dangerous thing about a stroke isn't pain, it's silence. That moment when the body tries to warn you without shouting. That instant when you decide whether to pay attention or not. The good news is that 80% of strokes can be prevented. 80%. That means with information, healthy habits, and quick decisions, you can reduce your risk in a real and concrete way. You don't need to live in fear. You just need to live consciously. Take care of your blood pressure. Watch your body. Listen to your signals. And if something feels different, even if mild, pay attention to it. Because every small symptom is an opportunity to act. And every timely action can mean more years with mobility, memory, and dignity. Remember, prevention isn't avoiding life, it's living better. Now I want you to tell me something. In the comments, share your experience. Have you ever woken up feeling something strange in your body? A numb arm that didn't respond? A weird sensation when speaking? Or a moment of confusion? It may seem unimportant, but sharing it here could help others recognize a sign in time. Because we can all learn from each other, and together, protect ourselves a little more. Thank you for being here.